Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to crack open William J. Porvu's The Real Estate Game. And let me tell you, this isn't about luck or gambling. No, we're going to break down how you can play the property investment game like a chess grandmaster, thinking through every single strategic move.
For a lot of people, real estate investing feels just like this, a totally impossible puzzle, right? The stakes are just sky high, the rules seem like they're hidden on purpose, and it feels like one wrong move could just wipe you right off the board.
But what if we just flipped that idea on its head? Porvu's big idea is that real estate isn't some puzzle you have to solve. It's a strategic game that you can play. And, like any game, you can absolutely learn the rules, get to know the players, and figure out the strategies to actually win. All right, let's open up the game manual. In this first part, we're going to lay down the fundamentals, how you build wealth, and, just as important, how you manage risk in the world of real estate. Okay, first things first. Any good player has to understand the game board, right? And in real estate, that board is the market itself. It's this dynamic, living thing, and it's driven by just a few really powerful forces. So the first thing you've got to get is that the market moves in cycles. It has this rhythm of booms and busts. And knowing where you are in that cycle, are things heating up or cooling down, that is probably the most critical piece of information you can have. The really sharp players, they're watching things like construction stats or how long houses sit on the market. They're looking for clues to see which way the wind is blowing. And really, at its core, the market is just a simple tug of war between two things, supply and demand. When tons of people want to buy, but there's not much for sale, that's high demand, low supply, prices just shoot through the roof. And on the flip side, when there's property everywhere but not many buyers, low demand, high supply, prices are going to drop. It's really that fundamental. And of course, you can't talk about the game board without bringing up the oldest rule in the book, location, location, location. But look, this is about more than just a nice neighborhood. Your whole strategy depends on where you're playing. Are you in a big, stable, but expensive primary market? A secondary one with a bit more risk? Or a high-stakes tertiary market? Think of it this way. A primary market is like a safe blue-chip stock. While a tertiary market, well, that's like investing in a volatile new startup. High risk, high reward. Okay, so you get the board. Now it's time to meet the four key players at the table. In pretty much any real estate deal, how they interact is what defines the entire game. So what's really fascinating here is how all of these roles are completely interconnected. You've got the entrepreneur with the big vision, but they can't do anything without the lender's capital and the investor's equity. And all of that work is ultimately to serve the tenant. See how that works? When all their interests line up, everybody wins. But if they're at odds, like say the entrepreneur wants some risky new design that the lender just won't fund, the whole deal can completely fall apart. The real art of the game is keeping all these players happy and balanced. All right, you know the board, you know the players. Now it's time to make your first move. And that always starts with one big question. Where's the money coming from? Basically, you've got two main ways to finance a deal. There's equity, which means you sell off pieces of ownership to investors. Now, that gets you cash in hand without a monthly loan payment, but you also give up some of your control. Then there's debt, which is just borrowing money. You keep 100% control, but now you've got the risk of foreclosure hanging over your head if you can't make those payments. It's that classic trade-off, right? Control versus risk. Okay, so the actual process of buying a property follows these four clear steps. You start with your due diligence, then negotiation, you get a binding agreement, and finally, you close the deal. But let's be real, that first step is everything. Due diligence isn't just a quick walkthrough. Oh no, it is real detective work. We're talking digging into zoning laws, checking for any hidden liens, verifying every single number they give you. It's the homework you do up front that saves you from a total disaster later on. But listen, one good move isn't enough to win the whole game. Real, lasting success in real estate is all about playing the long game. That means managing your assets like a pro, and this is crucial, learning from every single outcome, whether it's a win or a loss. And that brings us to property management, which, let's be honest, is so much more than just cashing rent checks. As you can see here, it's a whole mix of things. Proactive maintenance, smart leasing to get the right people in, running things efficiently, and making those value-add improvements that actively boost the property's worth over time. But this game isn't all wins, right? It has real risks. Porvu's book is full of case studies that show what happens when things go wrong. Take this one developer, for instance. He was building these super high-end luxury condos right at the peak of a market boom. He was leveraged up to his eyeballs, just assuming the good times would never end. But of course, the cycle turned. The market crashed, sales just dried up, and his whole project went straight into foreclosure. It's just a perfect and painful example of what happens when you bet that a hot market is going to last forever. So all those stories, all those cautionary tales in the book, they all boil down to this one critical lesson. Success isn't just about making as much money as you can when times are good. It's about managing your risk so that you can survive when times are bad. Having that buffer, that's what separates the players who stay in the game from the ones who get wiped out. So, there you have it. We've gone over the game board, we've met the players, and we've talked through the core strategies. And when you start to look at real estate this way, it stops being some big, scary, impossible puzzle, and it becomes what it really is, a strategic challenge. It's one that you can prepare for, you can play it, and you can win it. So the only question left is, what's your first move going to be?